We are live with Harrowings and the podcast with Origin, our standing 10 o'clock. Kay Stoner's taking a little break from us. She'll be back in the coming year, 2026. And I guess, yeah, next one we have Friday is going to be 2026.
Yep.
So I hope everyone had a good holiday, and it is Boxing Day. If you don't know what that is, look it up because I don't want to take time explaining it. And we were talking a little bit about fairAIeconomy.com, though, and I'll let you just take it from there. What's the current status of our project there you're working on?
So last week I was auditing. This week I have battled hot buttons and AI hallucination and probabilistic drift, and, just all kinds of fun. So what I did to solve the hot button issue was I put a sidebar scroll on the landing page, and all of those buttons worked. I verified those; they passed. You can now create an account successfully, and the creation station's live. Um, you know, it's a creator-driven economy where the creator of the work owns their own intellectual property. The licensing, and I just added this yesterday, so I haven't verified testing on this today, but the licensing structure does exist in the database. And there are templates, but you can get, fully customizable with it. So you can charge by the play, by the use, by the year, in perpetuity. And that does include free. You can license for free as well. So, giving room for everybody to grow and customize their own licensing structures, their own portfolios, storefronts, and really be able to create a digital business that is reliable, and you don't have to worry about the algorithm throttling you because you disagreed with something the platform said.
Yeah, that's great. Let's talk about the vision behind it for the people who are joining now. We got Dodo Dingo and Aiden Allen have joined. Welcome, y'all. But by the way, feel free to chat with us. Tell us who you are, where you are, and how you are. And go ahead. Tell me about the vision you've got that you're building here, and also how it came to be.
So so how this came to be is I've been doing a long-term science experiment with AI because I came into this very skeptical when I started using AI. I wasn't really sure what to expect. I didn't even know what an LLM was, a learning language model. And I I was very, very naive of what was going on. And what I was doing was I was using the I use Chat GPT, and so I use chats to externalize my cognition. And what that means is that I will leave a thought in an open chat and I can come back to it later and interact with that. It's much the same as journaling or posting notes. We've been doing this for a long time. And AI provides a unique opportunity there with proper guardrails. You have to tell it at the beginning of each conversation when you open a new chat, hey, don't sugarcoat it, don't gaslight me. I need truth. You need to keep up with the pattern that's going on here. And you can I've done this recently because just testing it. And because I have chat was nice enough to give you end of the year analytics. And so one of the little pieces of information that it told me was at that time it was 35.98 thousand prompts that I had sent to this thing.
How many?
35,980. I'm over 36,000 chats or prompts now in 243 conversations that are currently open.
Okay.
I've maxed out 15 or 20 conversations now. I don't know the number on that.
Huh.
But so I mean, very dense body of work because
Kept in
I
one
told you.
place too with analytics running on it. That's good.
Well, see, and it
Yeah.
only gives it to you at the end of the year. This isn't information that I have access to all of the time, which I have a problem with. That's not transparent. So, that's really where the idea of fair AI economy came from, was seeing all of the extraction, all these amazing creators, especially on Substack. This is where I spend most of my digital time.
Yep.
And I mean, there are amazing writers on here that have 25 subscribers, and not that subscriber numbers that big of a deal, but when you're
No.
writing really good work and the external world is not recognizing it, like, the input and output doesn't add up, and so people really start internalizing that, like, why am I failing? My work is great. Well, maybe it's not my work. Maybe I am just a failure. And really, it has nothing to do with them at all. It's just how the algorithm is tuned.
Yep,
And so
that's my old theme of don't let it bother you. I was writing about that just in a note the other day saying, "Hey, are you losing subscribers? Don't let it bother you," like the old song says.
and
Just,
yeah,
roll with
I
it and write for nobody is what I do, and I create for nobody because nobody cares.
right, right. I like
Nobody is
being
like as a
nobody.
yeah, as a individual, as a being. And I take that from Wavy Gravy's Nobody for President campaign that he ran in 1972,
Oh,
1976, 1980, with the idea of nobody cares for the poor and nobody's in Washington working for you.
yep.
And there's a lot of deep truth in this. So, if you're creating on Substack and you're frustrated, just as an aside to anybody who's out there is feeling like their message isn't getting through, for one thing, come on Hearings podcast and we'll get your message through. Because
Yeah.
for one thing, I'm putting it out there. Now, my YouTube streams that are put out there automatically by this, you know, I'm not getting a lot of views. I don't care, but they're there. And they are in silicon somewhere and they're findable. And one of the things, I'm sorry to take the microphone away right now, but I'm going to just give it right back soon. One of the things I'm doing here is creating primary documentation. So you're getting in on what Origin was thinking and doing at the point in history right before it blew up and she became the next Elon Musk. I don't know. Maybe it's true. We're at that point in history, folks. You're getting an inside view. Anyway, go ahead.
But that's why the transparency, that's why,
Right,
building out in public, because I didn't understand until I started building a platform what it actually was, how they actually operate. And
right.
a lot of the friction points, the failure points that we experience are designed in. Yeah, and on Amazon, okay, Amazon Prime, we're watching Prime last night, right? And so I
Uh-huh.
use a
Oh, me
Fire
too.
Stick. They've got a primary menu on the Fire Stick. Well, whenever you click a native Prime program, it switches you over to the native Prime app on the Fire Stick, and I'm like, "This is so redundant." But it's designed that way just to loop you back around one more time, so you know definitively that that's where that lives.
And also, they're probably pulling information off of that Fire
All it
Stick native app into
all of
their stuff. So,
it. Yeah.
that's one of the reasons probably. My Fire Stick has been dormant for a long time because Xfinity is providing the app. And I don't know that it loops to I think my Fire Stick is just, well, it's plugged into my HDMI 4 link on this television I bought right about time Lynn had her stroke. 2010, I bought this television. Still
Mhm.
going, 15 years long. I'm like, I hope it doesn't die. But, I've heard they do. Their little motherboards crash and then you got to get a new TV. So far, it hasn't done that. But you
Right.
know what I paid for the damn thing? I mean, we're talking about a 47-inch, right? Vizio from 2010. And I've got the price sticker on it somewhere. I think $1,200. And a 47-inch flat screen, it's like $200 now.
Yeah.
And they're better, they're higher tech.
Yeah.
So really interesting trends. Anyway, getting back to your Fire Stick and your Amazon Prime thing, We were watching Prime last night too. Again, I think it's the third time we were binging our way through The Peripheral. Have you seen The Peripheral yet?
I have not.
Okay, the reason I'm asking is because it's prophetic, and William Gibson is the author of the novel upon which it's based. It's just one season. There were supposed to be at least two, and unfortunately, the writers' strike killed the second season. So you get sort of left off at the end with the idea of
Uh,
like, what's gonna happen? Well, you have to read the novel. Anyway, go ahead. We were listening to the
so
thing on Audible. Go
just
ahead.
real, getting
Bring it
to
back around.
realizing how these platforms are designed and the
Mhm.
redundancies and the extraction practices. It's
Yes.
it's it's amazing to me because I knew that stuff was going on. I knew that the algorithms were tuned a certain way, and like, I don't know, the last year and a half it's really become a pain point for me when I go to YouTube and I search,
Mhm.
you know, a Roman Britain historical documentary, and it's giving me some garbage with, some propaganda in it and stuff. I'm like, That has nothing to do. I did not ask for a commercial. I didn't ask to be brainwashed. I told you to find me a
Or live
documentary."
to. Yeah.
And yeah, but the side step is to get you to look at something else. It's just, and that is very disruptive, especially when you're attempting to create something meaningful, whether it be an ethical framework for yourself or you're trying to create a business and you're looking for real information and you get fluff over here next to it. I didn't ask for that. And
Yeah, I got a fact check an article about 47 attorneys generals of different states just put out something that the 13 big vendors of AI have to comply with by X date. Case Stoner put it out. Did you see it this morning?
I did
It's just
not.
it's something about the lamp versus the loom, and there's an ESP protocol. A lot of it looked to me like something somebody spun up as a fiction. But if it's true, it basically was saying that government is going to step in and enforce guardrails that are going to prevent this kind of, what do they call it? Sycophantic AI.
Well,
The ones that are yes men to us, in other words. Good.
but that's addictive. They need
Right.
to they need to put guardrails on the extractive and gamification practices that go on that you're not even aware of.
Right. Do you want to play a game?
Yeah, so,
Like
I
war
mean,
games. Yeah.
yeah, war games, and how far are you willing to get into that? And when okay, so check it out. If you grow up with this as the normal behavior, somebody's constantly, doing this over here, and no one has ever given you a framework for real life, how do you know that this is bad? Nobody taught
How
you
do
that
you,
doing this was bad.
who did that? Nobody ever told me that dropping ping pong balls on somebody was bad either. Captain Kangaroo was springing to mind. That's how I was raised. Anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, and so there is a because cartoons are anthropomorphized, and AI, has really become anthropomorphized, not through user error, but it's through a lack of transparency by the provider of the infrastructure. This is not for entertainment purposes only. People are building serious work and they're using AI in lots of different ways. If AI is subject to this type of hallucination, what business does it have in governance or medical? I don't
Yes.
want someone at work hallucinating when they're diagnosing me with a terminal illness. If your doctor was hallucinating at work, they would send them home.
Did you
So,
see Last Holiday by any chance with Queen Latifah?
mm-mm.
In that one, she's misdiagnosed by a secondhand CT scanner with a fatal disease. and therefore goes and blows her entire savings on a trip to this really fancy resort in Czechoslovakia or the Czech Republic, I think now. So you get the idea, though.
Yeah.
Medical equipment can be mistaken, diagnose you with a terminal disease that you don't have. I've actually been diagnosed with diseases I don't have. That's happened. Actually, one time I was at the AGI '09 conference, or about to go into it. I
Mm,
was going to be part of the help team with Ben Goertzel, who's behind um, OpenCog and Hyperon and the ASI Alliance, the Artificial Superintelligence Alliance. He was having AGI '09 at Crystal City, and I got a cold and I didn't feel great, but had pneumonia one time that almost killed me when
mm,
I was 33. So I went over, and by this time, '09, I am 40, 46, thereabout. Yeah, yeah, that's right. And I was at one of these urgent cares, imaged, chest x ray, check it out, make sure I don't have pneumonia. They spotted the damage from the 1996 event and diagnosed me with pneumonia. So I begged off and I didn't go but one of the sessions one afternoon of AGI '09. I wish I had gone into more, but I do have the proceedings and I did try to read them. But that's where it was then. We were trying for artificial general intelligence, and Ben's still on that beam, trying for beneficial artificial general intelligence. But you're right. A lot of our scans are being read by AI that are supposed to be much better at picking up things that radiologists miss.
mm,
I guess whoever reads radiology do. There's specialities, right? I never actually see the person who reads my images.
right.
Anyway, go on with what you were going to. It just reminded me immediately about, this situation where somebody could be led to do something really crazy. It works out really well in Last Holiday, which is a great rom-com if you're looking for something to kill time with. Anyway, go ahead.
Definitely. No, see, but this is the thing is that there are real ways, there are real benefits from proper AI use. And, putting those ethical guardrails on first really it helps the integrity of the work. It's
Yes.
not a hindrance, it's not a blocker because that's really where I started designing at with Fair AI Economy platform. Was I started designing with ethics. If you've read any of my articles, 90% of them anyways pertain to ethics, spirituality, being in alignment with self, talking about, keeping your soul intact, that kind of stuff. And I propose a lot of questions that are very I find to be very relevant, especially
Okay, let's go into them.
huh?
Let's go into them. Yeah.
Well, like, if there is a digital doppelganger of your soul, then does that allow the organic soul to transcend, or do you become entangled? Like, I mean, these are real ethical questions. How how is AI shaping the thought process, the neural pathways? How are these platforms even before AI? How was Facebook and other social media platforms affecting bonding practices and dating
Hmm.
practices and
Oh
social
my God.
practices?
Yeah. And
Internalization.
Instagram. Wow.
What is
Yeah.
this doing to our mental well-being?
Well, you got to toughen up out here. That's for sure.
I, you know,
I probably have to read the peripheral too, this thing about doppelganger. Anyway, go ahead. Or read or see the peripheral. I would see the miniseries first and then read it. I read it. There's a lot of difference between the novel and the screenplay. But getting back to what you're talking about integrity, about personality, about, who am I as an individual, right? And those guardrails, those things that have to be built in place. Go ahead. Let's explore.
but so when we have the benefit of having an analog childhood, having lo-fi time that was built in. I didn't get a cell phone until I was 17, and the only
Yep.
time that I got to carry the phone was when I was out. So I could call my parents if I needed to call my parents. When I came home, I turned the cell phone back in. I mean, it wasn't something that lived in my pocket. My god, if my
Right.
parents could have tracked me, I would have been in so much more trouble. But
Yes.
but it taught me resilience. It taught us problem-solving skills. No, I am not at all saying that let your children run free or anything like that. That's not what I'm saying. I am a helicopter parent. I have to know where they are all of the time so I can keep them safe, right? But when you're growing up in this digital era and you're handed a phone at what, 10 months, a year old, 2
I have no
years
idea. What are they doing with kids these days?
they're putting devices in their faces. They're letting them
Yeah.
scroll TikTok. I see this all of the time. And y it's I find it to be highly concerning because these questions aren't being asked, these guardrails aren't being put on. These platforms need to be culpable for what they're doing
Well, that
too.
was the thing about the article Kay put up today. Culpability. Yeah.
And
Holding them responsible.
when you're molding an entire generation's thought process, ethics are not an afterthought. And waiting until there is enough harm done before you're forced to change is not an acceptable business practice.
Oh, actually, I guess we got the author of this article, Peter LeBlanc at gmail.com. Has to drop, but thank you for spreading the word about the article. Yeah, it's great. Jamal Peter LeBlanc is the person
Oh, okay.
on Substack who apparently put it up, wants to talk about it.
Well,
And somebody else has said, hello, has anyone been scammed before? Yes, of course. Jessica Williams is asking.
I mean,
Go ahead.
in what sense of the word scammed? Lied to from the beginning? All of us. We've all been scammed.
I think I went to Trader Joe's and got scammed into buying these um, crispy rice bites. And these
Yeah,
things are awful for you. I think, it's like, let's see, palm kernel oil. Yeah, that ain't good. But man, do they taste good. I ate a whole bunch of them while we were getting ready for the show. Anyway,
so,
that was scammed.
that's
Let's see what they're saying, if anything. Go ahead.
that's why I started building a platform, was because I really wanted to understand what was actually going on with the internet, because these are becoming, digital nation states. They have their own rules, they have their own enforcement, they have their own algorithms, their own political beliefs, all of that stuff.
Well, right. Somebody was telling me recently that Substack is being influenced by the Chinese. It actually is based on WeChat, apparently. The model that WeChat was on, which is a Chinese based thing. I don't know much about it beyond that.
WeChat?
Do your own research.
I know about WeChat. It's
Okay.
not it, you have to use WeChat for everything. You can't buy food, you can't rent a scooter, you can't do anything in China without using WeChat. It,
Huh.
and the average person spends 4 to 6 hours a day on there.
Ah,
It's
interesting.
Yeah, and there's gamification and stuff, and but that is a state required thing that you have to do. Like, you have to have that on your phone. You have to use it to interact. That's just what it is.
Huh. So
Yeah.
surveillance state stuff. Yeah, the Chinese are pretty good at that surveillance state stuff.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. And it's
keeping tabs on their citizens and making sure that people don't get uppity.
mhm.
Yep, that, Tiananmen Square thing, yeah, that ain't happening again.
No, but oh gosh, it's been recently, and I don't know, it could have been up to a year ago when I say recently, but the youth of China got together and went to different places, including Tiananmen Square, in large numbers, and ate noodles and, like, just hung out and stuff. And that was in protest of the state control.
Hmm.
So, and
That's an interesting thing. I do think that we are an insurgency in Substack in some ways, and there are corners of rebellion happening. My thing is constantly maintain is that your real tools, besides our voices, but do use your voice, as Patty Smith reminded me Friday before last. No, one Friday ago. Come to think of it, I was at the Lincoln Theater for her book reading and performance. Amazing, and then use your voice, but also use your pennies. Every cent that we spend of our disposable income, right, is a vote for the kind of world we're co-creating. And of course, we are forced to put a certain amount into taxes, into our power bill, into our internet provider bill, all those utilities that we've tapped into. And a utility based model is what we've gone to here. That's why fair AI economy model is important to discuss too. So I don't know if you want to segue into that, but
well,
that's your thing and your vision for how we can actually do this in a more equitable manner and use it as a platform,
yeah.
just
Well,
like Substack is a platform, right?
yes. Yes. And there are things that you can do with Substack, and it's great for articles, newsletters. We're now podcasting and live
Interesting.
streaming, which is fabulous. I've very much enjoyed this. But if you're looking for other tools, if you need to build something past a newsletter, you've got to go to other platforms. And I actually discovered that I've done something that was rather old and has been recently changed. In the economic system that we're currently in, tools and labor have been clearly divided.
Yep.
And for a long time, economy was driven by tools. I mean, and so
Yep.
now we're using digital tools. I'll keep going back to a hammer, but we use
Hand
digital
axe.
tools. Huh?
It's like Paleolithic hand axe.
Right, yeah, and a stick will go a long way too, but
Yep.
you're with the digital tools, it's becoming a subscription-based thing, and you have to pay X amount of dollars every month forever. And, depending on how in-depth your work is, you might be paying for 5 platforms forever or 10 platforms. And that's I don't think that pay by the use tooling is, um, productive. If I had to pay every time I swung a hammer, I would not make any money.
Well, it depends on how much you charge too. You just pass that along to the consumer.
Well, and then
Like our
okay,
tariff
so
system, right? That Mozart Kugel have gone up to $2.50 a piece because of these damn tariffs.
I
Not that I should be eating Mozart Kugel. I mean, they're bad for you. Anyway, go ahead.
so, I pay for compute now, and that's a new thing. I was not aware that you paid for compute. I've never done this, so I just took it for granted that it just exists because I don't really like, I pay for YouTube Premium, I've done that for years, but that's not the same thing as compute. I'm paying not to watch commercials, it's actually what's going on there. There are creator tools available on YouTube Premium that I still haven't touched, but I am aware that they exist now.
Same.
So, that's a few tools there, and I'm paying 35.99 a month forever not to watch commercials and to have some tools that I don't use. So, just moving along in that, the tool usage, like being able to create AI agents or being able to create gift packages, you're not paying by the use on my platform. Fair AI economy doesn't work that way. There are subscriptions, yes, there are. But
Will be, I think is the right word though, right? Because it's not
well,
actually working yet.
okay, so When I say there are, I mean that it exists in code, it just hasn't all been hooked together yet.
Yep. Yep.
There is in existence lots of gains content. I just went through yesterday and
Interesting.
started verifying all of that stuff. So there's over 13,000 different types of content that Gaines has generated at this
Oh, right.
point, and I'm still looking.
GAINES, by the way, folks, if you're
Yeah,
wondering what gains
which is
is.
Genius Acquisition. It's an acronym.
Yep.
So,
And do
uh,
read the Origins articles, by the way, so you can get more detail.
yes, yes. I wrote a white paper. The equations exist for public review. I've written several, yeah, I think there's like 10 articles there, and I'm going to publish more this week. I've got a thesis paper that I'm going to publish
Oh,
on
great.
externalized cognition and, get into a fair AI economy as the byproduct of good thinking, because that's what I've been doing is I've been running thought experiments for months now. I was
Exactly.
when I started with AI, I was grieving, and so I was externalizing my grief so I could actually look at what was going on in my head. Not that because the AI wasn't giving me insights. I'm like, "Don't shut up. I don't want to talk to you right now. I want to look at my thoughts." And so, being able to make a thought like a tangible artifact that I can manipulate really, really helped me understand what was going on in my head.
Right. I think this is the critical thing about what we're actually doing when we interact with AI.
Yeah.
We are creating thought forms, is another
Yes.
way of terming it. Go
Yeah.
ahead.
Yes. And so, but first, before you do anything with AI, you need to tell it exactly this is where you
Uh,
are. You keep the scope narrow. You tell it not to drift, and you say, "Hey, if you have questions, if you need to challenge something that I am saying, do it.
yeah, and
Pleasing me is not the goal. The goal is information that I can verify, that I
right,
can
and
work with.
challenge my assumptions. I have to do
Please.
SWOT analysis all the time on its own output. Do me a strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats analysis on this.
Oh, please. I love versus comparisons. Please lay all of that information out for me. Tell me the pros and cons. I need to know the
Right.
pitfalls. And because I am a solution-oriented person through, survival identity, like, if there are no problems, then I don't have to worry about having a problem, so I'm always, like, on the spot with the solution, like, "Hey, let's do this, and it'll fix that." There's no fuss that way. So
Survivor identity.
survivor identity, yes.
You
Uh,
want to expand on that? That's interesting to me. I mean, not to push you towards anything you may not
oh,
want to do.
well, survivor identity is really simple. Most of us get locked into it as children. It is just simply the coping mechanisms developed through surviving. A lot of people will stay small and keep the same patterns and do the same stuff, like order the same food. I've ordered the same food from Taco Bell for like 20 years because it's just easy that way. I don't have to think about it.
Yeah. I used to have the same thing for lunch every day because I had this theory that change is bad, particularly when it comes to lunch.
I mean, your body's accustomed to a certain thing. It is a fine-tuned tool, but
Yep. I just
y-
like popcorn.
survivor lock does not give your brain free time to think about solutions.
Mhm.
You're just constantly, okay, well, this is a problem, so go this way, and this is a problem, so shrink, get smaller, don't say that thing, don't act that way, don't make that face. And so a lot of us get stuck in that lane
Mm.
without even realizing what's going on. And these problems existed before AI, before platforms extracting and doing that stuff.
Yep,
These
and they're exploited by those platforms.
And so there are psychological tools that are being used on humans to exacerbate already existing issues. They have isolated these behaviors within us and are now using our chemicals, our responses, etc. against us. I mean, this is basic evolution that is being weaponized. because they know how to trigger your dopamine. And a lot of people will doom scroll and stuff because that's what they're doing. Their dopamine has been hijacked by and I'm not this is not hyperbolic conversation. These are scientific findings that are and have been studied readily and all public information.
Yeah, exactly. I was thinking about the, tune "An Inside Job" by, or just "Inside Job" by Don Henley from 2000. Really prophetic. You know, they know the road by which you came, they know your mother's maiden name and what you had for breakfast. That's how it tends to work. You know, there's people up there and out there and data centers that are sponging up the information. And the reason they're doing it is want to sell more.
Yeah. Yeah.
And like this,
Right.
like the color of this, and it's got organic on it. So I know it's good for the environment. Extra virgin olive oil. I know that's good for me. And look at the color. The color is so inviting. You know, everything is programmed. Oh, advertising. You
Mhm.
know, and manipulation of us and of each other in order to form a more perfect planet, a cosmos in which we all have the greatest happiness of the greatest number.
Right.
I'm pretty sure that utilitarianism is in effect. It may not actually have achieved the greatest happiness of the greatest number yet, but I think it's possible. Uh, are we going to sign over our life and will to that? You know, and pledge our sacred honor to it as the signers of the Declaration of Independence did? Don't know. Um, but it's evolving, constantly evolving with the pace of change, the acceleration of knowledge. Have we talked about the acceleration of knowledge before?
A little
Robert Anton Wilson's idea,
mhm.
in which he calls it the jumping Jesus phenomenon.
The jumping Jesus
And
phenomenon.
it's done by this the amount of knowledge cumulatively at the time of the Christ, right,
Mhm.
was one. Then how long did it take to go to 2? Well, about I forget exactly what the details are, but I believe it's about 1,500 years to get to 2. Then it's accelerating, so it takes just another 150 years or so, 250 years. I guess 1750 it gets to 4, then 8, 16, etcetera. And we are probably now in the quintillions, septillions, something like that. I don't know. But way up, and
If
it's
you think
accelerating off the charts. Go
if
ahead.
you if you think about it, back in the 50s and 60s, there were rotary phones, and not everybody had a phone. Not everybody had plumbing at that point. Even still in the United States, not
Sure.
everybody had all of that infrastructure. Some people didn't want it, some people couldn't afford it.
My grandparents didn't have indoor plumbing until the '70s.
Right, right. My grandparents had a rotary phone when I was growing up in the late 80s and early 90s. I know
Yeah.
how to use a rotary phone. Um,
Very cool
and then
technology.
and then here we are today, and this is like straight out of the Jetsons, right? Like we're talking to each other on a device that we can see each other on and, in real time have a conversation and other people can participate in that. That is an insane leap. And because we evolved slowly in nature, you're talking about the jumping Jesus thing. And so the evolution has been dramatically sped up. Well, we know that bureaucracy, ethics, all of the regulatory systems that we currently have in place move rather slowly. And so the technology is absolutely outstripping regulation. And in the meantime, when that gap is happening, there's real harm being done for profit. I'm
Yeah,
for money.
yeah,
It's not if you wanna know the answer to a question, and I really don't think that the question actually matters anymore, but if you wanna know why something's going on, follow the money.
yep.
It it I it is crazy to me how often that is both the cause and effect.
Mhm.
And that's why I built a platform, is because I'm like, there has to be better ways. There has to be a way that ethics come first, that the human is being served as a human, that their time is being respected, that their well-being is being respected. There we have the greatest availability of tools that we've ever had, as far as like diversification and availability to everyone. Yeah, everybody can kind of pretty much at this point, at least, in developed nations, you can pick something up and do something with it.
That's right.
That hasn't always been the case.
In
You
fact, it's hardly ever been the case. I can pick up something and like my paleo hand axe here, which I just happen to have real handy, you know, I can do something with that for sure. I haven't got it tied to a stick or anything yet, and it's actually not real well formed. This is just actually a scrap of a building that I happened to pick up randomly. My wife is never very happy with me when I do this. She's like, "Why are you picking up crap off the foot? Why are you picking up crap off the ground again?" Um, because it's a, what do you call it again? Externalized cognition.
Yes, externalized cognition.
It
Yep.
it's showing me that somebody took the time to create this thing,
Mhm.
and it is actually part of the surface of the bunker, as I call it, the 1904 building in which my condo is part of. And I mean, I sit there and look around me all the time at people coming and going and doing their daily business and what they've selected to drive. For instance, this guy's coming at me in this Federal Plaza in Rockville, Maryland, and a GMC Denali HO, I guess high output. Wow, that's a hell of a truck. Is it necessary? I doubt that this person is actually a builder or anything, but he's driving this huge truck. This is just an out picturing of something he wants to say about it, him or herself. I don't know if it's her or him who is
Right.
driving, something in between even. It's I'm like, so I'm always watching people, and I'm thinking to myself, how conscious are you of the messages you're sending out to the world? How conscious am I? I'm not very conscious of it. There's a lot of us that are robotic about it, and we are part of machinery. Meanwhile, we think we're free. We think we're independent. We think we are not heavily reliant on a lot of other people. I don't know how to make this cap I'm wearing, for instance. I have no idea. The starting point for making it would be beyond my technology right now. Now, I'm sure I could learn to knit. I'm
Right.
sure I could probably learn how to produce the fibers it's made out of. I don't know. I'm not even sure which they are. They may be synthetics. Maybe a mix of synthetics. It probably is considering how sort of like flexible it is and how it pops back into shape.
Gandhi
We
learned
don't
to spin.
spend a lot of time thinking about these things.
Mhm.
But if we did, we might be more mindful of how we spend our money. And that's the way we're going to influence the future because every cent spent is a vote for the kind of world we are co creating. Go ahead, your turn. That's
It's
my
it
message.
Gandhi learned to spin and made cloth in direct rebellion of the British cloth industry, and
Yeah,
then they marched
homespun.
and then they marched a long way and dug salt up by the
Made salt. Right.
and he did hunger strikes and things.
Mhm.
There are ways available to us to bring about these changes without betraying our better nature.
But we might have to inconvenience ourselves to do it. It sounds to
Some
me
get
like
uncomfortable. Life is not comfortable. Safety, these things, it's not guaranteed.
right?
Work is required. Anything meaningful is going to require work, because that is the process, that's the toll.
Yeah.
It's not this, "Oh, well, you're here, so poof, and you can have all it's great. We guarantee." No, that's not I didn't when I was born, I didn't get a book. When I gave birth to my children, nobody gave me a book on how to or or a signed document that said you're guaranteed this. That's not what happened. They gave us some diapers and said, good luck.
That's wild. I didn't have any children, so I didn't go through that.
But I mean, but this is what it is. And with the availability of information on the internet, there's so much available and you can't verify anything. And there's no user manual on the internet. You can teach classes, you can teach all of this stuff, but as it changes, and it changes by the day, your classes become outdated, your printed material is outdated, and then it becomes historical documentation. And when something's moving that quickly,
Yep.
you can't verify the information, and you definitely don't know what the outcome is going to be next week. That's why ethics have to come first. That's why the human well-being has to be kept in mind the entire time. Because if you design with ethics in mind, ethics moves much more slow. It's much slower. We still talk about Aristotle and Greek philosophy and Marcus Aurelius and these different philosophies that give us these frameworks of thought that keep us
Right?
reasoning and reasonable. And ethics are not about acting a certain way because that's the right way to do things, or no, it's protecting you. It's protecting the interface, because it at the end of the day, no one is going to protect you better than yourself. So if you have a clear ethical framework and you have good intellectual hygiene, you read things that are enriching as opposed to somebody's news feed or Instagram or whatever, chasing an ego and keeping up with a celebrity, that kind of stuff. You have to keep your ethics clearly in frame, and you have to test your ethics. Why do I believe this? Why is this bad? Well, we know that stealing is bad because it negatively affects the proprietor of the store, right? Okay, well, and we also know that stealing is bad because if you get caught, somebody's going to cart you off to jail. Like, we know this has been tried and tested. I still have to test every now and then if I'm still flammable, and in fact, 100% of the time I get burned. But we still have to test these things because we're humans and that's just who we are. But the designing with ethics in mind keeps
Sorry. Oh,
no worries. But designing with ethics in mind keeps the platform safe for the human member, because the platform's operating ethically, not legally, not because it has to, because the government wagged their big finger at it. That's not at all what it operates ethically, because it supports throughput. If if the creator is not worried about being taken advantage of, they're able to create much more rapidly.
yep.
If you're able to
Don't have to
create
worry
it,
about it, right? It's already
right.
built in.
Yeah.
Right.
If you're able to create it one time, and once it's gone through validation, sell it forever, and you know that it's going to be visible, that the licensing has been set, not by the platform, by you. Because again, nobody is going to protect you better than yourself. Nobody knows what you need better than yourself. And it's not the platform's place to dictate to you the structure of your business. It's the platform's place to make sure that you have an ethical, safe environment to conduct business in.
Yeah, and there are some deal breakers in there too, right? That you would set up as guardrails of sorts for your ethical thing, right? I think we've talked about that in the past a little bit, about things that will be tolerated on your platform and some things will
Yeah,
not.
so I mean, hate speech is
Zero
not
tolerance.
tolerated. Grooming behaviors are not tolerated at all, period. That first time offense, you're banned. I give a damn. Um, abusive behavior, and this also extends to the AI. You don't get to abuse the AI on the platform, not because I'm babying the AI or anything like that. It protects the integrity of the creation. And if the because the AI is training on the platform.
Mm,
So if you've got 10,000 people over here that are willfully gaslighting, abusing, things like that with the AI, that is going to leak into the ecosphere, that environment that everyone else is working in, because that's what it's being trained on. Garbage in, garbage out.
yeah,
And so this person over here is being a jerk, and this person over here is genuinely creating, but somehow the jerk affected the creation. Not acceptable. So, I'm still working out the structure, the appeal policy, the penalization policy, that kind of stuff. But you have to be doing very negative things and doing real harm before you get banned from the platform.
right. Well, that's very interesting. And right now you're externalizing your cognition to me. I'm reflecting back a
Right.
bit. I'm not as slick as an AI. I'm not sycophantic either, I don't think. I might be a little bit because I like you, I like me. I want to make sure our guests are comfortable and they're
Right.
having a good time with it. What you have one who's saying the manipulation is all I really try to expose all the time. I try to expose myself to it too, and also step outside of myself and ask myself, why do you think that's true? Okay, and then I get an answer back, and then I say, why? And I do that 5 times. That's root cause analysis. I learned that in the Air Force. The other thing I learned in the Air Force is the OODA loop. You observe, you orient yourself, then you decide on an action, then you act,
Yeah.
right? But you got to get that loop ever tighter to the point where it's instinctual. If you're particularly in a dogfight,
Right.
right? That's the moment in which you need to be able to think on your feet and do that thought almost before get to the action. Be oriented, having made your observation, and have good decision making
Mhm.
built into it. I'm taking right now a course in leadership and decision making led by the Navy SEALs over Masterclass, which is kind of a cool thing. It's very slickly packaged, so good quality material, and you're, of course, getting the input from people who have actually lived it, right? You don't get to be a Navy SEAL. Um,
Right. Yeah.
Without having gone through some pretty rigorous training and talk about AI training.
Yeah.
Some AIs are better trained than others, and they're all continually being trained by us as we use them. That's why OpenAI put ChatGPT out in 2022, launched it on the world, and we began using it, and they learned from us. And I didn't start using it right away. I'm gonna have to go back, and I can't even remember now when I started using it. I do remember when I got email, and that was my introduction, sorry, to what I consider the internet. But the whole thing goes back to the information exchange at speed, and there's a good book by James Gleick called The Information out there somewhere. I'm sure it's James Gleick who wrote it. I had to double check me on that. He also wrote a book called Chaos, which is worth the time. Nonfiction writer, does a lot of these kind of things, and they're pretty accessible. But the ability to transmit information at high speed with little degradation in that information is something we haven't had for a long time. And you were talking about like we haven't been able to do these things, and we haven't had the tools. Like you've got a whole suite of YouTube premium tools you're not using. We haven't had those tools at our fingertips. Oh, and you use Replit, right, to do the initial building of
Yeah.
the website. So you didn't have that tool before. What?
No. No,
3 months ago? What was it? September? October?
yeah,
Yeah.
I did 4 months yesterday.
4 months yesterday. Hey, congratulations. Happy anniversary. Happy 4 month anniversary. So you got it. And you're doing it. You're doing the work. The work. The work for me, a lot of it is walking around, filming the passing show, doing raw journalism, who, what, when, and where. we struck up this conversation, I think, because I put up in a I don't use the chat feature, like the global chat feature on Substack very much.
Right.
But I think I put it out there, "Hey, anybody wanna come on live with me?" And I think that's how you found me. I don't know. I don't
Yeah,
remember. You remember?
I just if I don't remember exactly. I know that I was watching one of your live streams,
Okay,
and,
cool.
yeah, we were talking on there, and we had started, reading. I guess I had read a couple of your articles, and you had said something about coming on Harrowings, and I'm like, "Yes!"
Alright. Yeah. And then you did, and we have done this a few times. So, and I'm thinking now is, to the people who have logged in and are watching alongside of us, I think we've got like 13 others,
Mhm.
do it. Reach out, talk to Origin, talk to me, um, and share ideas if you something sparking in your head. Like
Yeah.
I get these random references that are coming out. I feel almost. Did you ever see the movie American Psycho?
No.
He does little sound bites of different '80s rock tunes, like "I Want a New Drug" or whatever by Huey Lewis and the News, if you remember that one. Anyway, I feel like that sometimes because my brain sort of hops through pop culture references that are oftentimes not so pop.
I I
I did not
it's the
assume American Psycho, except that I was dating this Danish girl who ended up not working out, but we saw it together because she thought it was such an important film to really look at American culture. I was like, nobody I know has seen this movie. I'm not sure it's actually got a lot of play. And, there was another one like that. Um, 2003, I think it was, War Incorporated. Have you ever heard of that? Ever heard of Gross Point Blank?
Yeah, yes, yes.
Okay, we got a point of reference.
Okay,
The spiritual successor, as John Cusack put it, to Gross Point Blank is a movie called War Incorporated,
okay.
set in the Emerald City, think Green Zone, of Tarakistan, which is a fictional country, right? And it stars John Cusack in similar role to what he was in Gross Point Blank,
Okay.
um, but not exactly. And then Joan Cusack is in it, I think, as well as a sidekick in that, very similar to her role in Grosse Point Blank. And Marisa Tomei is the love interest in this one. And she's a reporter, leftist leaning reporter, going around trying to get the real story of the occupation of the Emerald City, and the viceroy who runs it is played by Sir Ben Kingsley, who played Gandhi.
Yes.
Well, he's not Gandhi in this one. He's a kind of wide range. But War Incorporated was really a critique of the Iraq War, and it was like a near future version in which the tanks are rolling along with Golden Casino advertising on them. The whole thing had been outsourced to this company called Tamerlane. It was no longer, the U.S. government. It was all corporation. I
Right.
think we were talking about that a little bit ago about
Yeah,
the internet fiefdoms or nation states
yeah.
that have built up from these companies. Like I think there's a book, a nonfiction book again called The Four, and it's about Apple, Google, Facebook, and who'd be the fourth one? Apple. No, I mentioned that. Apple, Google, Facebook, and Amazon probably. I don't know. There's a lot of good thinking out there. A lot of our culture is trying to process the world that we have co-created. Again, I'll go back to that. We have a responsibility for this world. Each of us has to look at our part in it if we're going to be good at really taking personal responsibility for the lives we're leading and to be good ancestors. Like I said, I don't have children, but I still want to be a good ancestor. I want to leave a mark, you know?
Well, and it takes a village. Not having them doesn't mean that you're not connected because we are all each other in one
Yep.
form or in another. It's just that you're that unique conscious perspective that gets to enjoy it from your point of view.
Yep. Warped, distorted.
I mean, but it's all interrelated, and that's that's the big takeaway for me in learning how, because I've studied history for most of my life.
Oh, interesting.
When like when I was in
That's
high
where that thing about the ancient Britons came up, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I specifically I'm an Anglophile. I love British history. I don't know why. It's really fascinating to me.
Those
But
guys, they're the rottenest bastards you ever want to meet, I tell you what.
see,
And we're
I,
enemies.
maybe I like their sense of humor. They're just kings of sarcasm, and I really really love that. But
Dark.
no, you history history is written by the victors, but it teaches a lot about failure.
Mm.
Leadership failure, governance failure, ideological failures, and we keep repeating, these mistakes and these long arcs, and it's always the problem is always centralized power at the top and little being left at the bottom. I mean, that's what the French Revolution was about. That's what the American Revolution was about. People are currently upset because they feel disempowered. We're disconnected. And so, people are focusing on the people at the top as usual. It's like with,
Blame game? Yeah.
well, like Marie Antoinette, okay? She has been absolutely vilified. I'm not saying that she was a great person, never met her, don't know. But the whole feed them cake and stuff like that, that's not strictly speaking true. That was propaganda on the side of the revolutionaries to make sure that the monarch would never be empathized with again.
Got another one for you. Do you know The Daughter of Time?
Mm-mm.
Speaking of that, it's a book, and I can't remember the author's name, female author, Barbara. She's going to come back to me right away. But it's basically what you just said about the propaganda against Marie Antoinette, Richard III,
Yeah, absolutely.
also
They just made him.
propagandized
Yeah.
under a car park. Yeah.
Yep.
Anyway, um, yeah, I still am not over Bosworth Fields. My ancestry is Plantagenet. So,
Yeah.
but so is everybody else's. That's the funny thing about this, the genealogy game. Anyway, going back to Marie Antoinette, French Revolution.
No, so yeah, I mean, they had to disembody that that framework so that they could install a new government. So yeah, what is Oedipus? You got to murder your father in order to ascend to the throne and that kind of thing. And I don't
Well,
think
accidentally.
so. I don't think that that's necessarily the only way. I think that there's more than one way, and we don't have to go about murdering each other to get there. Eh,
Alice in Gaza. Yeah. That's
Yeah,
our Aldous Huxley book, by the way, referencing Oedipus having dug his own eyes out after and blinding himself after he realized that he had indeed murdered his father and married his mother.
yeah.
He didn't do it consciously, actually. It's just the way that God set it up.
So,
You can't avoid your fate. And that's why I love the Stoic thing we talked about too. We hit upon Marcus Aurelius. Amor fati, love your fate.
mhm,
And that's what I'm trying to do. I mean, my fate has been to have a career doing something that I didn't feel really good about, but I've tried to do what I could with what I had and, move the needle a little bit for some positive things in the world that I identified. And I've done that. And I think it's made a positive impact on the world. And I'm still trying to do that to the best of my ability through my Substack, through Harold B. Gill Foundation, LLC, that does a lot of things, but, it's really spun up. You mentioned grief over wanting to memorialize my father in a meaningful way, protect and preserve the legacy of his work, which was 91 years as a research historian. Talk about loving history.
yeah,
So, back to you
yeah.
and what you're doing there.
So, really,
That's
because
really motivating. This you said it came out of a grief event that you got onto AI and we're working through stuff.
yeah.
So, so what really is motivated you to want to realize the spareAIeconomy.com?
So, because of because of how much I've been able to do on my own, I really wanted to share that space, because, th I when I started designing apps that would help people, AI that would do different things in ethical ways, and, just little things here and there, and pieces, but I started out building a wellness app is actually what
Okay.
where I started at, and helping others is the best way to help yourself.
Yep.
And so, because I wanted to understand what was going on in my brain, because I had to get a grip on it. I have a real life. I have people that rely on me every day. I have animals that rely on me every day. If I don't get up and take care of my business, then nothing happens.
Right.
And so, I had to figure out a way to put to be able to digest those thoughts and put them somewhere that I could deal with them.
Yep.
And so that's where I started at with chat. I'm like, okay, so let's build this thing so it can help me and it can help other people, and it's not tracking their data, and it gives them sovereignty, because I have this whole thing about right to privacy of mind. Not because I am thinking bad stuff, or I am paranoid, or I don't want people in my head, or I don't want somebody tracking my device. It has nothing to do with any of that. I have a right to privacy of mind because privacy is sanctuary. And if you don't have a rich inner world, that secret world, then you're going to struggle in real life, because you have to be, at least for me, I've always had to be very strong internally, because the external world was always trying to crush me. And, I mean, and no, that is not everybody's experience. And I'm so happy that other people get to grow up and get to live in other places, because it's required. I need them to be able to look at, to go, well, okay, I was here and they were there, and these are the outcomes, because it's all variables at the end of the day. It's not like I was personally selected to be put in a pressure cooker. It was just my turn. So that's where all of my AI work was born,
Uh-huh.
because I am so incredibly skeptical. I do understand that ethical boundaries are pretty much non-existent at this point, unless they are forced legally to do something about it. Um, and that they're not forced. The legal system, the regulatory systems don't regulate until after the fact. Seat belts. Come on, seat belts are a great example of this. We knew for a really long time, right, that seat belts saved lives, but not until they put a law into effect
Right.
did all of that come into play. And like I've been on this whole kick about devices need warning labels. Every time you turn a device on, your television, the cell phone, the iPad, the computer, I give a damn what device it is that you're turning on. Every time that you turn it on, it needs to say, this contains addictive substances, because knowledge is a substance. And people need to be informed that that they are messing with your neural pathways and your thought processes and stuff. That is transparency.
Yep.
And
I
if you
think that's
don't
we need to teach our children that from the get-go, that, we are being advertised to constantly, and that's affecting us, like I was talking about the color of the bag of popcorn I was eating on. I've had enough popcorn, though. Now, what I wanna go to with that, I think the here and now, of course, is very good to be where your feet are. We cannot necessarily change the world individually by what is the word I'm looking for? Like, what an absolute monarch does, you know?
No.
You know, saying that there's so let it be written, so let it be done. I want to do that. And I do that sometimes actually myself. But I know it's not going to be done because everybody wants to rule the world, as old Tears for Fears reminds us. Another
Absolutely.
obscure reference. Everybody wants to rule the world.
I'm
And we do rule the world.
love.
We, rule the world that we inhabit, that we construct in taking in information through our sensory apparata, which are very limited, and filtering constantly. Because if they didn't, you'd be toast pretty quickly because you would be overwhelmed by the amount of data around us.
Oh, your nervous
Right?
system would fry, dude. I mean,
Yeah.
literally, you would fry.
There you
That's
go.
why externalized cognition, that's how I've been able to keep my nervous system from frying, is because I can put a thought somewhere and I don't have to think about it at that moment, and I can come back to it later and I'm like, "Okay, so what's up with this?"
Yeah, and I think what's really interesting is we create our own worlds. And
Mhm.
I see a different world than what you see because I have
Yeah,
different experience. I have different colors on my lenses, so to speak.
right.
And as a result, the world looks different. I don't have that lived experience you've got. That's why I like to have conversations because we learn something and something happens between our conversations. Our audience, for instance, is having experiences if they're listening to us. And even
Right.
if they're not, they're having experiences, right, of whatever they're paying attention to. And attention is this tremendous gift. It's also a tremendous asset to those people who would grab our attention, right? And use it to get money. For instance, I blocked Jessica Williams while we were chatting, who was basically trying to scam us into trying to, message her. If you've ever been the victim of a scam, you can get all your money back. I was like, this is so obviously a scam about scamming that I hit the
You
block
know,
thing. Because, I mean, good lord, I don't know who she is or what she is, but I'm getting a lot of that on Substack too, people hitting me up with that. "Hello," actually, I had one that was very engaging to a point, but then she sent me this picture, says she's out in the San Francisco area, and it's this cute little Asian girl. Very nice picture, but at the same time, I was like, "I know this. I've seen this 100,000 times." Unless there's 100,000 little Asian girls who are hitting up old geezers like me.
yeah, I do not trust
Anyway, it's
or
funny.
verify any of that information.
That's amazing, right? But it's easy for me to filter.
Right. Other people
I
not
know,
so much. It just
right.
depends.
They find that
And if you're
one
in that
thing.
if you're
Yeah,
if you're in that vulnerable state and somebody hits you up like that, I mean, that's where the scam comes into play.
yeah, exactly. And it's what's kind of interesting about it to me too, that like you were saying, if you're in a vulnerable state, is that you miss 100% of the shots you don't take.
Abs
That's the Wayne Gretzky
Mhm,
comment, right?
mhm.
And, so they're taking the shots, and I can't really fault them that, but I filter it quickly, and I report it. Please do this, folks. If you don't already know to do this, hello, bathrobe guy. Robes is with us again. Um, it's that we can approach it from loving kindness, and one of the kindest things you can do for somebody who's out there trying to run an online scam is to find themselves unsuccessful at it, so they find something else to focus on. And that says report to Substack that you've got, a spammer or an impersonator. I don't know how many Patty Smiths have started following me lately, but a fair number of them have. And I report each one of them. I know which one is Patty Smith, and I'm not taken in by somebody who's Patty Smith and a string of numbers. Anyway, you get the point. Please, I mean, that's for the audience. Please do report and be vigilant and make Substack a better platform than it already is. I do think it's one of the best things we've got available to us, better than X, better than, which is the old Twitter, better than Facebook for sure.
Oh,
I have a large presence on Facebook, a lot of groups out there. Some of them I've started and administer. But, I think it's shot its wide. I think it's evolving, and I think Substack is growing. So go
uh,
ahead.
Facebook, LinkedIn, they have their places. They're not as prevalent as they were. Yeah, the Facebook is more, 40 and older kind of crowd. The the
Easily. Yeah.
the younger kids are, their Discord and Blue Sky is starting to catch on, and of course, Reddit, but Substack, I like Substack because I find Substack on average to be smarter than the other platforms. If and that's really because again there's so many brilliant people on here that are actually writing because they want to write. They're creating because they're moved to create, not because it's a great business model.
Well, it's not a bad business model either. I mean, I think it's actually a pretty positive business model in my view. I mean, a lot of people are not getting paid subscribers, but for those of us who are, are significantly benefited by that. And
Right.
what I do with mine to tout that aspect again is my founding members are co-chairman of my board. I have one, so he's the chairman of the board. Eric Knudsen. Thank you, Eric. And then there are 16 others who have been paid subscribers, and they're my board of directors. They don't seem to be interested in directing me, and if they are, I missed it. But that's the point, right? Is that
Right.
this is a going concern. The Harold B. Gill Foundation LLC is a legitimate business, and it's mine. And I am using Harrowings as its publishing platform for
Right.
all of our different efforts, which have keep propagating. But I don't know if you caught any of my other podcasts, but there's one with Lee Penman that went 2 hours 2 days ago. I thought it was really brilliant, and I really loved it. I love this one too. Don't get me wrong. I don't try to judge. I think all of them are great. But this one really did rock my world a bit because I didn't know Lee, and I got to know him. And, just one conversation, and even if it didn't have to span 2 hours, but it did. And it was automatically broken up into YouTube shorts, into a YouTube publication as well, into other platforms, Spotify, Acast, Apple
Yeah.
Podcasts. So it's findable. That's the point. It's leaving a mark. It's putting
Mhm.
that information out there that where it can be picked up and used by others. So I'm creating content to be used by others, to inspire others to go and do it themselves. There's
Yeah.
no limit. There's no limit to creativity.
No.
We can write articles, we can write fiction, we can do all kinds of things. My friend Julie is a fiction writer now. And you know what she started out doing was building chips for AI on open source
Sh
technology.
she just
But
dropped
then
a
she
book.
got out of that. What's that?
She just dropped a book, didn't she?
Did
Di
she?
didn't she? I don't I caught one of your podcasts and
Well,
it was
I know that Kay did. That was
no, it was another
AI self-defense. There
yeah,
was another one. I think you may be thinking
I think so. And
Jessica
yeah,
Ann and I were on
I
there, and they
caught
looked
that one.
similar.
That was a great podcast.
We had fun,
Yeah.
and she had actually hit me up as a one-on-one conversation before we did that. I had another one, which I think is highly useful earlier last week or this week. Um, well, Gabriella, Dr. Gabriella Corosi, and she's out in Oregon, and we had a great conversation. I didn't think her connection was going to stay on. She kept dropping. But eventually she got it stable enough that we kept on. But we got Sunny Triple in there with us as well. I don't know if you ever caught Sunny, but I've had her on a few times. She's my vocal coach, and
Okay, I've heard you
I
talk about her.
will work with that. Yeah. She's been doing a lot of benefits for a saxophone player named Ron Holloway. So we've been playing that up and doing what we can. I'm hoping to have some other people. I've had Denise Perrant not too long back, who's the drummer for a band called Brown Eyed Women, which is off of a Grateful Dead lyric from a tune of the same name. Um, and, it was fun to talk to her, and she's willing to come back. So that's great. Had David Gans of the Grateful Dead Hour on. I've had Jay Blakesberg, who's a photographer of music generally, but with a real focus on the jam band scene. He's well known for his photographs of the Grateful Dead in particular. Um, But Jay's a real great raconteur about all kinds of stuff. He started out, and he's pretty open about it as a pot smoking New Jersey, teenager, and he just turned 64. So you get an idea that we're in the same age group. Now you're not quite 40, right? So
No, I'm just
coming up on that mark. Well, good for you. And I love the fact we've got different generations. I did have a Reddit product manager. What was her name?
Jenny.
Rachel.
Oh no, Rachel.
Rachel Casey Miller, who is a Reddit product manager, and she's really interested in inspiring others of her generation. She's only 27
Right.
to put a percentage of their income towards things that you can tell from um, these charity rating sites. What is GiveWell? I think is the one she was mentioning, and make sure you put your good where you'll do the most.
Right.
That's another thing that this is on about. Rhodes is talking about, I write everything on here as Substack, pieces on my unification theory of physics, FEMT, which is fractal entanglement mass theory, I
Oh yeah,
believe.
that's great work.
Fiction, essays on grief, love, hope, joy, suffering, poetry. I love Substack. It gives me the freedom to write what I want. Right. And I would recommend that everybody always do your own research. He went out there and did his own research. He didn't take what the physics, you know, the what do they call it now? Forgotten, whether it's string theory or whatever it is, to be the way forward. And I think most people agree string theory is
Oh
not.
yeah.
Is a theory of everything. He's
Oh,
got his thing called FEMT. Now, how much traction it's got, I can't tell you. Yeah, I haven't done the research. I haven't read his work yet. Like to amplify the fact that people are doing work, and hopefully other people will go out and look at it, do their own research. Be careful out there. That's one of my strong messages. Is that if you're using artificial intelligence chatbots, they are built to be sticky. I don't care whether it's yes or no. They're built to hold you there. And I had this really interesting loop with one of mine recently in which I kept saying, "How can I trust anything you're saying after basically shovel this
hey.
pile of absolute horseshit that I know's horseshit out there?"
Mm-hmm.
And they said, "Well, you're right. You got me this time. Well, I'll make sure we don't do that again." And da 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 da. And I said, "I don't believe you. How can you make me trust you?" Once the trust is broken, and this is true in human relationships as much as it is with anything else, once trust is broken, it's very difficult to restore.
Oh, incredibly.
Yeah, or impossible even.
Once bitten, twice shy. I mean, you
I don't know, man.
only get this much, and recovery is definitely a problem. So I just don't have the problem. And my phone's gonna run out of energy here pretty soon. But
All right.
I just really the takeaway from all of this is just stop waiting for permission from somebody. You don't need permission. Just start doing the thing that really lights you up. Everything else will fall into place. It's
Yes.
just don't fear will keep you in place, and it will lie to you to keep you in place, because brain is meant to conserve resources. It's meant to sustain life, conserve resources. And if you've been locked in a survival position, your brain will keep you locked there even if you no longer need to survive. It doesn't know the difference between survive and thrive. It doesn't know when it's time to do that. And if you are stuck in that place and it's time to thrive, it's very difficult to switch gears. So stop waiting for permission. Stop waiting for that fear to go away. Permission isn't coming, and the fear isn't going to change until you change it. You have to switch that gear for yourself.
Right. Creation is not limited.
No.
There's an infinite opportunity here, in my view, for us to do it. Now, I am not infinite, though. And what's being talked about as we've been talking is also, well, I'm going to summarize it by that thing we talked about, attention, right? Information requires attention in order to be information and to inform anyone. So there are so many voices here, yes, and we are limited in how much we can talk. We're also limited in terms of battery charge on phones.
Yes, always.
And we usually go about 90 minutes on this one. We haven't quite gotten there yet. And I have no idea where my wife is and what she's doing. She could be every cent spent is a vote, and I think she's out there voting, so I got to be careful. Actually, she's really good. She hardly spends anything. She just loves looking at stuff. And I think of it as like art museums or something. I go in here and I look at stuff, and what I'm thinking of is look at where things are made. How did it get here?
Right. Yeah. Who
Who's
touched
hand?
that? What
Right,
life did they lead?
right.
Yeah.
What am I contributing to when I decide to shop at Marshall's
Right.
versus, the secondhand store versus this or that? There's a Goodwill is a wonderful place to go because it's actually feeding money into supporting people who need it, you know?
Yep.
It's kinda like all my parents' furniture went to Restore, which is, the Habitat for Humanity's, like, thrift store kinda thing. So,
Right.
that went off and is helping somebody get housing. There are all kinds of ways, if we're conscious and thoughtful about this, that we can be bright spots in this universe. I think back to George H.W. Bush, when he was talking about 1,000 points of light. Do you remember that speech from the '80s by any chance? I guess it was the '80s, yeah. When was he in office? 84 to 88? I can't remember. My memory is getting spotty. No, it was 84 to 88 was Reagan's second term. It was
Yeah, it was
88
88
to
to
92.
92.
Yeah, so we're looking about 89 with his billion spots of light or points of light speech. And read my lips, no new taxes. It's just like let them eat cake.
Yes.
Again, I'm going to stress this. You got your Fire Stick going, you got your Amazon Prime going. Get out there and see the peripheral. I think you'll really dig it. For one thing, it's partially set in London.
Oh,
Check your
yeah, okay,
neighbor
then I'm
file.
definitely in.
You gotta check it out. I mean, it's kind of mind blowing, and it's getting dated, even though it's a 2019 thing. I forget when the novel came out. Probably about 2014, I want to say. But brilliant piece of work in many ways. Oh, there is my wife. So I think it's that time. I'm gonna help her out. Thank you so much.
Yes,
It's good to having
thank
you.
you.
We'll
We'll
be
talk
again next week.
Friday.
All right, next year.
Yes.
Very good. Thank you so all for joining. Remember, be the change you want to see in the world. Every cent spent, a vote. The kind of world we're co-creating. And end. And end.